Hello, everybody. First of all, I'd like to thank INSS and my friends, General in Reserves Amos Yadlin. I consult with him even when we don't agree. He always has wise things to say. I really believe in the need of your institute, and I also believe in the very important added value of INSS to challenge our way of thinking. And I think on the right and on the left, everybody will agree that one of the most important things is to walk around with a sense of dissatisfaction. The greatest enemy of the security system is complacency and self-satisfaction. We know it from our history, other people's history. We keep asking ourselves where we're wrong, where we can correct. And I think that Amos and Udi, and with you also I consult quite a lot, I think they are making a huge contribution to the public discourse. In a second, I want to relate to what happened today, and then, with your permission, we'll continue with the program. I'm a member of the cabinet, and sometimes it's a dilemma. When you fight for your views, immediately people say it's political, etc. But I think that we have to make a real quick amendment in the security policy of the state and to rehabilitate the deterrence. And they ask me, what exactly do you mean? Well, it's many things. They're tactical and strategical, but basically in the last few months, on a daily basis, people infiltrate from the Gazan border, from which we disengaged scores of terrorists, including today. They put explosives and they go home safely. So they ask me, what would you do differently? I would give an order to kill them, to kill terrorists who infiltrate into the state of Israel. We've been doing it for 70 years. We know how to do it. We should do it. In addition, there was a horrendous murder yesterday of 2 Israelis. This morning, I visited the family of Kim, of blessed memory. As of the 1st of November, the family of the killer will get $15,000 a month. You have to stop it. So they tell me it's difficult legally. They give me a lot of explanations. You have to stop it. They should not get this money. You have to demolish the home of the terrorist. Not to measure, just to demolish. The house of Aryeh Fuld is still standing. Those who murdered Ronald Basky, the murderers, their house is standing still. The murderers of Asher Hasno, their house is standing still. 102 homes of people who killed Israelis, they were measured, but they're still standing still. It's not PR, you just have to demolish the houses. To go from talking about deterrence to creating one, and I mean to continue to act to bring the deterrence back by special activities. Gaza is a different story. We'll talk about it another time. As for the plan or the outline, first of all, I'm very happy that INSS worked, and you spoke to me during the preparations of the plan, and I read it to the letter, but I think that at the end of the day, we're talking about the same story, the same opera of a Palestinian state, because at the end of the day, when you look at it, you know, in a lot of verdicts, there's a lot of work, but finally we're talking about freezing building out of the clusters and transferring areas to the control and the governance in the sea areas to the Palestinians. I cannot see the great tidings. I think it's the core plan is, okay, at the moment we don't have a partner, so let's do it unilaterally without a partner. But it's the same hitting your head against the wall that the left is presenting. And finally, we're talking about the Palestinian state. It says we shall shape our fate by ourselves. It's a very good sentence. It's like a bit trite, but I don't accept the fact that we do not shape our fate. We do every day. We build, we promote these settlements, the future, sovereignty. I think on all the sea areas, this is a plan that I presented about 6 years ago. And the sentence, we shall shape our fate ourselves, is like a code for concessions. I'm not excited by it, to shape your fate by yourself if you cut your leg off. If you cut your leg off, you also shape your fate, but you harm yourself. So by shaping your fate as such, this is not the right thing. Amos compared the political plan to ways, but you always remember where the target is. I can say that your goal, that at the end of the day, another Palestinian state between the sea and the Jordan, in addition to the one in Gaza, the objective is wrong. You lost contact with the satellite. It's completely detached from the geopolitical reality in an area which creates marginalization to the entire Palestinian issue. And today we're talking about much bigger forces in the area. And not just that the goal is wrong and there's no connection with the satellite. Because of that, I can say, thank God, that you're not the driver. Now, what does the outline say? It gives us an idea of what to do. We are in favor of two states, so now we won't say what has to be done apart from freezing the clusters, and in the future we'll think about it. Look, we have no idea what to do with Gaza, which is controlled by Hamas, so it's out of the outline. We have no idea how to prevent attacks without Israeli control, so we're not going to change it. We have no idea what to do with Jerusalem, so the plan does not refer to Jerusalem. We have no idea how to bring the Palestinians to the negotiation table, so we say that at the moment we don't need their agreement, so except for freezing the clusters, we're not going to do anything. We have no idea how to evacuate hundreds of thousands of Israelis, so we won't. We just will strangle them. I also want, with your permission, in the few minutes that I have left, the significance of this plan, you cannot beautify it, is to put a block to the arm of Israelis. When you put, when you tie your veins, then you die. This is unequivocal. I, Minister of Education, I build kindergartens in this country. Who's going to build a kindergarten in a place that has no future? Who's going to do it? What is not an organism is not something not static, so it's legitimate. Just say it. We want to strangle the settlements out of the clusters, but you cover it with all sorts of words that don't say it, which means that Eli is going to be choked, die. Beit El, Ofra, Kiryat Arba, that's what it actually means. If this is your position, and this is legitimate, because this is the Zionist left of handing over territories is part of the Israeli legitimacy. I'm not one that thinks we and them. I'm against the ideas, but it's legitimate. But say it. The idea, the attempt to cover it with nice words, just think about a city that you would have been ready to live in such a place. That's one thing. The second thing, there's an assumption that the plan is going to strengthen the international status of Israel and gain recognition. I am against both. My life experience says that the world, it's like drugs. For a few minutes, you're on high, I agree. The first few weeks after the evacuation of the Katif cluster, the world loved us for a few weeks. But today, if we shoot a terrorist that comes in from the same place, nobody in the world, I never heard one leader in the world that says, just a second, you disengaged from Gaza. It was your initiative. You did the right thing. That's why we're with you today. Who is with us? Who is with us today? The moment it's going to heat up, Why don't we shoot? Because we're afraid of the reaction of the world. The same idea that was behind the Gaza disengagement. People think that we're going to get a fantastic support from the world, but I think that on the contrary, the policy of the government today, the international stature of Israel is higher. For the first time, we're showing that we can strengthen the international status without giving up territories. By the way, as a businessman, and there are a lot of you here, this giving is not necessarily dignified. I don't think anybody's going to recognize it. No country in the world, and we have people here, representatives of the world, let's call it. I don't think that if the Palestinians are going to say this is not accepted by us, and obviously the A, B, and some of C's are not going to be accepted by them, because 97% of the territories and the Temple Mount that Barak and Olmert were giving to them, they're not going to accept it. So who in the world is going to legitimize us? And the third thing, we're talking about one thing that I do agree with a slight change. If we talk about the territorial congruency, we're talking about transferring territory to the Palestinians to make a sequence. I'm against transferring territory. I'm talking about movement. What do I mean? We're stuck, all of us. They're not going anywhere. We're not going anywhere. The people of Israel are going to live in Israel. The Arabs are living here. There's no great love lost. Let's not tell ourselves stories, and nobody thinks that. I don't think anybody thinks that everybody is going to dance together on the hills. But given the fact that we live it together, definitely we need full freedom of movement that still does not exist in Judea and Samaria. It's improved, but it's not full, and I agree. I agree that there should be full freedom of movement of an Arab who goes out of Jenin will be able to travel to Hebron without going through any roadblock. That has nothing to do with policy. It has to do with a policy of roadblocks. But I think if I could make a decision, and I can today make an impact, but I cannot decide, I would make a connection between Ramallah and Bethlehem, and we all know exactly where it is. And you can do it underground or whatever. I wouldn't create two separate road systems. Today I would expand the infrastructure, but you can have transportation in sequence without sovereignty. There's nothing to do with it. When you drive your car, you came out of Jenin, you decided to go, and you went into C area, you don't feel different air. You can transfer from A, B to C. It's a road. You're going on a road. Either the road is open or it's not. The decision about roadblocks or not, that's a decision. And I would dismantle the roadblocks in order to create transportational sequence, but not 1 centimeter of land to be given to the Palestinians. And another thing, because here there's an assumption which is internalized. It says security-wise we'll stay as long as we need to, but actually we will evacuate. This is going to happen or not happen, but finally we can have security long-term without civil. Tzipi, my colleague, we don't agree on many things, but you're saying that the settlements is a security burden, right? No, because I don't like to quote people if it's not. I will repeat Tzipi's argument. She says, she will say it herself, but there are hundreds of thousands Israelis in Judea and Samaria. 100,000, and around each settlement you need guards and forces. It's our duty. Sure, you are security-minded, I know you. But it's a high cost. It doesn't contribute to security. On the contrary, all these soldiers that could have defended the state of Israel have to look after each settlement here and there. That's what you're saying, right? It's a burden. Okay. So I am completely against it. I think that the settlers of Ofra are defending Tel Aviv. And let me explain. If, God forbid, we evacuate in a quiet, tacit evacuation or an overt one that Arik Sharon and Tzipi did at the time, we are going to see attacks. We're going to see balloons with explosives on the center of the country. And let me explain the connection. What's the connection? What's the connection between a settler in Ofra and a bomb going on Kfar Saba in the middle of the country? It's finally, those 100,000 settlers in those controversial areas, they live. They have schools, they have kids, they're living. It's like blood streaming in a body. The moment you have this life, yes, the IDF is there. The moment IDF is there and they go, they have security to move. But today, if you send the force into Gaza, it's going to be very frightened. If you send the force of the IDF to anywhere in Judea, Samaria, they're not frightened because we're not in Gaza, but we are in Judea and Samaria. In long term, there's no security existence without civil existence. Take Lebanon. What happened at the end in the 90s in Lebanon? I don't suggest we're going to go back to settle Lebanon. But the moment there's no civil presence, you have to protect, eventually the public is tired. And it says, guys, we have to get out of there. We should get out of there. And it's going to happen. It's inevitable. And then we're going to get out, security-wise, and you say, no, this time we won't make mistakes. I don't believe that in long term, every person who was a soldier, and there are many, many people who were much more soldiers than I ever was, they know that a large part of the security military existence is psychology. I remember the base where we were in the 90s. There was a base. We felt very safe. We kept going out. And every time I came, I saw more cement. And the more cement there was there, the more frightened we were to leave this place, because you sort of you hold yourself inside. It looks to you, I bring everybody back to 2001, the huge wave of attacks. There was a great fear in the Israeli population. How are we going to go behind those dark mountains in Judea, Samaria, and finally we did it and took control. Gaza today, anybody will agree, we're not going to go into Gaza, because today Gaza has become this closed cluster. We have no idea what's happening inside, although we are a superpower intelligence that goes into Tehran and takes things out. But Gaza is a black box. And it shows you for 6 months, IDF wants to go do things well, but we cannot. They keep sending kites and balloons at us. To conclude, let me tell you, there are two super perceptions in the last generation in the state of Israel from the Oslo period. There's a detachment at all. They are there, we are here. This movement, I don't want to hear anything about you. And during Oslo, we're going to get out of Gaza. But, and I complete the sentence that we all remember, but, Ehud Barak said, if they shoot one shot, I'm going to get it. I'm more right than you in that. They always say, I'm the most security-minded. Yes, we'll get out of Gaza, but you'll see what happens. I'll make it hell if they only dare. We came out of Lebanon, and he said it about Lebanon. Then we came out of Gaza, Sharon and Tzipi said, if they dare do anything, we're going to do it. Even Rabin said, this is reversible. If they'll start, we'll go back. So this perception of disengagement derives from despair. I think that Rabin took the decision about Oslo because of some sort of loss of trust in the capability of IDF or the Israeli society to sustain long-term the situation of friction. That's what I think. I don't have any proof, but I have reasons to think that. So this is the perception of disengagement. When you disengage, at the end, everything grows in front of your eyes. It's not fair what you're saying. You are talking about something that you have no proof of. I said I don't have any proof. But I'm not here in order to express your opinion. I'm expressing my opinion, and I'm in minority here. But finally, this perception is a perception of disengagement, and then the other side grows. And take Lebanon. I'm not judging if it's good or not. I'm just saying we, from 80s to 90s, were in Lebanon in creating friction, and Hezbollah all the time was on a small fire. Small fire. I remember Hezbollah in the 90s. I remember it very well. There were 15 casualties a year, okay? 18 a year. Right, there were 18 casualties a year in this friction, and we came out, and we disengaged, we withdrew. And then I lived a few years in the States, and then I came back after the exit, and there was a second Lebanon war. I couldn't believe it. This little nothing of Hezbollah that was on small fire suddenly grew. What is it? 90,000 rockets? Why? Because we met something else. We disengaged again in 2006. 17001, we disengaged. We're very happy. We're not at war in Lebanon. But if, God forbid, there'll be a third Lebanon war, we're going to see 150,000 rockets. So I'm not saying now that we shouldn't have. I'm just saying that this approach of disengagement, this price that the other side can grow too much, the other approach is one of continuous contact, Judea, Samaria, despite the terrible disaster of Israel. You can say that from all the fronts in Israel. It's the only place that you can say that the Hamas has no control. Maybe there'll be a murder here and there, maybe a knife, maybe a terrorist here and there, but we know exactly what's happening because we meet those terrorists in their bed at 3 o'clock in the morning in their village and not in the streets of Tel Aviv. So to conclude, first of all, I'm very happy that there's a discussion. I also think that this plan eventually is an elegant way to lead us to 3 states, Palestinian state in Gaza, which exists, another Palestinian state between the sea and the Jordan, explosives and lack of hope, instead of our perception, which is not easy, but definitely has hope in it. We are building a wonderful state with problems, including problems that you cannot solve, and we have a Western will to solve. But part of the fact that we're adults, we have to know that sometimes when you deal with something, you break it and make it worse than the situation we were. It's not perfect today, but this game can lead us to catastrophe. And that's why I will continue to insist that we're not going to give any more territory to the Arabs and that we don't establish another Palestinian state. Thank you.